Welcome to the Low Carb Lifestyle Podcast. We are here today with my good friend and fellow health coach, Niall Clerkin. Niall, thanks so much for coming and chatting today.
Tracy, I'm delighted to be invited onto your show at last.
At last, I'm so excited. And we are very good friends. So we probably would just have such a great chat about so much stuff. But before we get into it, Niall, tell everyone, who is Niall?
Okay, well, I am a long-time corporate recruiter, right? For 20 years, I worked in the recruitment industry, who over the last 3 or 4 years has completely changed my outlook in life. And these days, I'm setting up a coaching business and I'm helping people become, I think, better at their work through health coaching. That's pretty much what I'm doing, spending my time at now. Yeah. I'm
So
47 years old, from Ireland. Grew up in the countryside and I now live in the Blue Mountains of New South Wales.
what a beautiful spot. And you've only recently moved there. So
I
settled
have.
in. Yeah. Do you love it?
Yes. Yeah, I adore it. I think I was made to live here. I really,
Yeah.
really adore it. Yeah.
Yeah.
Outside every day, full of greenery, nature, gum trees. I'm looking out the window now going, it's just wonderful out there. And to be
Oh,
honest, I thought about conducting this interview outside in the garden because it is amazing. But the
yeah.
bird song is
Yeah.
so
Yeah.
ubiquitous and so continuous that I thought nobody will be able to hear me. Yeah, too much, too many. What a complaint, right? Too much bird
I
song.
know. That's true. That's true. What a classic. Well, what happened 4 years ago for you, Noel? What brought you into the low carb space and changed your life as much as it has?
Oh well, I think a lot of people get changed through reading a book, and that did happen to me. But it started a couple of years before low carb, my journey, in that I read Born to Run by Christopher McDougall maybe a decade ago. And if anyone hasn't read that, that's a very famous book about Mexican Indians who run barefoot and
Hmm.
how the evolutionary um, uh, pressures on our feet, or basically we've ruined our feet by putting trainers on them. And the book makes a very strong case for transitioning to running barefoot or with a minimalist shoe. And I took up this baton and transitioned how I ran, and discovered that not only did I run better, that I didn't get injured, and I could run faster, and my legs got stronger, and my feet got stronger, and I was amazed. But what it did was it opened my mind in that classic Matrix blue pill, red pill way. I went, oh my God, Adidas and Nike have been lying to me my whole life. So I discovered that I didn't need, extra torque and cushioning and heel balancing in my trainers. That really I just needed to run in the equivalent of a rubber sock so that I didn't get thorns or stones on my feet. And once the looking glass had been made clear, I discovered that there are a lot of things that there were a lot of truths in the modern world that were not actually truths. And around that same time, I started eating paleo again because ancestral running, ancestral food, and I started basically a real food diet, which slowly took me towards the best version of low carb eating, which is the whole foods low carb eating. And then I started reading books and getting into the science, and I discovered that it was better for my brain, it was better for my organs, it was better for my skin, it was better for my energy. And then you couldn't stop me, and I started evangelizing to everybody and discovered that this is really what I wanted to do. So over a few years, I trained as a low carb nutritionist. I trained as a life coach. I also trained as an athletics coach and a running coach. And just because I think I needed to persuade myself that I had a lot to learn, or that I had learned a lot before I took the jump away from an established career and
Mm.
pivoted in midlife to something else. Really, so that's how it happened. Now, pretty much, many years into my journey, so I eat low carb, but whole food low carb. Basically, I eat no processed foods. I hate processed foods. My kids don't eat processed foods. I don't eat any seed oils. And I probably don't eat most days till lunchtime. So I build in a certain amount of intermittent fasting, and I've never been healthier in from a nutrition perspective. I mean, I've never felt better in myself. My body has never been working as well. My blood results have never looked as good. And my brain has never been this consistently energized, which is something I find incredibly interesting. So that's really what I'm researching a lot of now, which is how to make our brains as efficacious as possible so that it can help us in the workplace. Because I spent years helping people in the workplace from a recruitment and a career perspective. Now I'm thinking, wow, how well could those people have done or do in the future if they were using the full potential of their brain chemistry? Yeah. Right. Yeah. Trying to remove obstacles, Tracy. That's where I am.
I love it. I love it. And that's that's fascinating too, the brain, because I think it's one of the most underrated parts to, low carb and eating this way. I think, most people, certainly from a female perspective and male, I think people come into it for the weight loss. They hear it's
Yeah.
really beneficial for the weight loss, or they're being diagnosed as pre-diabetic or type 2. So they find it from that perspective. But the brain stuff, I'd love you to talk a little bit about what you've seen, what you're learning around that. What have you discovered in your research around optimal brain function?
Yeah, okay, no problem. I do agree first about the weight loss. Of course, so many people, and I had the benefits of weight loss as well 4 years ago, and so many people do come to it from weight loss. And you can in theory do dirty keto and lose weight. You can do veganism and lose weight. You can do anything that restricts you. You're going to lose weight, but you're not going to build health. And now in
I
particular, I've been
love
talking
that.
about
I
brain health.
love that. That
Yes.
can I sorry to interrupt, but it's so true, because people argue all the time, oh, you're just losing weight because you're calorie restricting. And that second part, yes, but look what I'm building. That is so, again, not talked about enough. Sorry, I
Yeah.
just wanted to highlight that. That is fabulous.
Yes, but if I went to Weight Watchers, I could possibly lose weight through calorie restriction, but I would definitely not build health. What first fascinated me was that I realized that by calorie restriction or any restriction of within the eating habits, most people reduce the nutrient intake. Now, your body needs certain nutrients, and it already has them laid down in your bones and in your tissues. And if you're not bringing them in, if you're not eating them on a daily basis or a weekly basis, your body starts to leach them from itself in order to function. Okay, so slowly you will become depleted in nutrients, and that's often the problem. I don't mean to mention veganism again, but often the problem with veganism, because when people transition from a regular diet to a vegan diet, they feel much better because they cut out a lot of crap foods, junk foods, which is brilliant. But over a number of years, their body slowly leaches out the nutrients that they're not receiving from their diet. And then 5 years into their vegan lifestyle or something like that, suddenly they're having bone problems, they're having muscle problems, they're having like depression problems. And that's just because the nutrients didn't come in over that period of time, and the body had to use the nutrients up that were laid in the body. So that's why whole food, low carb works so incredibly well, because it's very, very high. It's a high nutrient density diet versus being a high energy density diet. So things like choline in eggs, which are really good for the memory, the omega-3 coming in both in beefs and fats and livers, in fish and in liver, that type of nutrient that essentially keeps the brain healthy and operating well, high in zinc, high in magnesium. These are things that we need for our brain to operate optimally, for our to create new for our brains basically to be neuroplastic, so that we can set up new connections all the time, so that we can change our ideas. The chemistry of the brain needs to be supported by the nutrients coming in. And of course, we don't ever think about that, because in mainstream media, food is just something that A, is supposed to taste really good, and B, is supposed to have enough calories to get you through the day. And it shouldn't matter, in theory, that media tells us it doesn't matter where those come from. You just need 2,000 calories approximately per day. It's not true at all. You need the essential amino acids, you need vitamins and minerals, and they're best taken in from your food, rather than supplements. There's a lot of trials that have been done that prove and disprove whether tablet-based supplementation is actually any use to us.
Yeah.
So the science is not settled. And if there was no way I could get calcium from my food, I would take a calcium supplement. But the science is not settled on whether that is going to help me. But it is completely settled that calcium from food, from a natural dairy, is going to help me. And so I think that that's how people need to look at things like food. That it's a supporting, it supports the mechanisms of our body. So that whole food, low carb approach, really, it just changes everything. It just seems so funny for me to say that, but it changes everything, because after you've taken away the junk food and then you start feeding your body nutrients that it's not used to getting, sure, it'll take a few months because most of us are in a nutrient deficit. And you have to fill those holes first. But once you fill those holes and your body is then getting what it needs on top of the deficit, it's an amazing place to be. It actually, the whole feeling energetic in your brain, in your body, and being awake to life. I almost feel like I'm cheating the world by that happening to me in my mid to late 40s. Surely that should have happened to me in my 20s, but darn it, I was drinking and smoking and eating crap food in my 20s, wasn't I? Ruining myself. And now I think of all the wasted time. But I feel like I'm cheating the world by feeling this good just from the food that I'm eating and from the diet, the type of diet that I follow. It's interesting how it all comes together.
It is. And then, of course, I've the same as you. And, you obviously, I had that career change as well. Became a health coach, wanted to help people and share what I've seen. I'd love to talk to you a little bit about that, because I often talk to people who, again, they're in the low carb space. They've felt it themselves. They want to make that career change to health coaching. They want to help someone. They're not sure how to do it. How have you, so I'd love you just to share your insight around how you're doing that. Because obviously if you're particularly the main breadwinner, you're bringing in a lot of income. How do you work it out? How do you work out which way to go? How did it look for you? What was it that really made you finally decide, yeah, I'm going to head down this path?
Well, I'm the type of person who likes to hedge my opportunities, create a safety net in front of myself so I don't fail. I don't really just leap off the cliff. That is a very scary thing to do. As you say, the main breadwinner, I've got 2 children. We've got a house here in the Blue Mountains. It's, there are responsibilities. But after years of working for other people, 4 or 5 years ago, I set up my own recruitment company, with a business partner. And what I actually did was I saved enough money in a separate savings account. And I was, lucky, very lucky that I was able to do that. But to create 6 months pay for myself. And then I started the new company. And I utilized the money I had saved to pay myself for 6 months. And basically I was just backing myself that within 6 months, at the end of that 6 months, I would be able to say, all right, you got an income coming in here. You can continue this new company you've started. And I was able to. So I've really done the same thing again, which is I've saved up a certain amount of money that I've put aside and said, okay, you're starting a new business. This is your money for the next year. You have to live on this. And by the end of that year, you have to have your business up and running in a way that can support your family. And so that's what I have. I get basically what I have set up for myself. And if in a year I have failed, and I don't like to have said those words at all because I don't believe in that level of negative self-talk. I will not have failed, actually. But were I to fail, I would then possibly have to reevaluate whether I've just done something wrong, or do I go back and work in my old career? I could always do that if I needed to, which I'm not going to need to.
No.
But that's how I did it. And that's how I overcame the fear. That's how I was able to, say to my wife, okay, this is a radical change, which you're going to have to live with, but this is what I have put in place. And I guess I'm lucky enough that because I had done that before, I had already proven to myself and to anybody else that it was possible to do. Yeah. So really, that's what it is. That's what it is. It was creating the space so that I could concentrate on a business or on a different service line. Create the space. I feel that if I left a job and I needed income the next day, you would just be it'd be panic stations, and you'll be chasing that money. So possibly a mid-career or a midlife career shift is a difficult enough thing to orchestrate. But if you're lucky enough or privileged enough to have the opportunity to orchestrate it, just a wee bit of planning and you can do it. But that's investment, Tracy. Let's imagine that I coach for the next 20 years. I'm investing in that by taking my money and putting it in front and saying, this is the money that we're going to live on for the next period of time, even though it's our savings. What are the savings for? Are they for my retirement, or are they to set up my career change from now for the next 20 years? I'll be very glad of using them, in 10 years when I'm a busy international coach.
Exactly. And there's something to be said, obviously, about being passionate about what you do. I mean, I know you're passionate about what you do and you are brilliant. And, I love it too. And people don't kind of factor that in. I think for me, it's not work. What I do has never felt like work. Has there been challenges? Absolutely. Have I had to, I'm not the main breadwinner, which is, I must admit, definitely a pressure off. But, though during COVID, my husband did lose his business and have to transition to a new one. And I did feel a little bit of that pressure. But, I think when we're passionate about what we do, I love the way you said, create the space, because if we can do that, if we can pause, create space, we're going to see something new. We're going to be able to try something new. And I think if you're driven by what people are driven by, which is that magic of how you can feel like this, you just, being able to share that with other people. I mean, what a gift, what a great job it is to be able to share that with other people.
Yeah, passion, I think, is very important. And there are so many writers, leaders in the self-development space, or just ancient philosophers who tell us that if we follow our passions, if we work in something that is congruent with our passion, then we will never work, because it won't feel like work. And that's completely true. Even like modern thinkers like Tim Ferriss or Simon Sinek, it's about the passion. Okay, if you've got the passion, then you won't mind the workload, or you won't feel the workload. That's kind of important. What I think also is important, I don't know if you've ever come across the book Atomic Habits by James Clear.
I haven't read it, but I've seen it. Yeah.
So he has a wonderful concept, which is about creating tiny habits, micro habits that essentially change who you are over time, because they work on a compound effect. And there's some very interesting concepts in that if you decide to get up every morning at sunrise and meditate, which is something that I introduced a few months back in my life, then 6 months in, you are a guy who meditates. It's part of your identity, right? It's not that you have to get up every morning in the tiredness, and it's just part of you, right? It becomes part of you, and then
like
you're
brushing
a guy who
your
meditates. It'd be just weird if you didn't. And I think that level of habit creation in your day is amazing, because it's not about discipline. Because once you create the habit, you don't need discipline to continue it. It's a habit now, right?
That's right.
And so it's not always about having this iron will. It's just something that you do. I see myself as somebody who enjoys the sunrise and meditates now. I see that in my identity, and it makes it super easy to do. So every morning I get up and I think I'm going to do the things that I do, because it's part of my identity now. I find that very, very interesting. And I think it's very persuasive and very helpful for people to look at items that way. And then the other one is, if you picture something in the future that you would like to do, and a lot of people have a dream or a vision, okay? But instead of concentrating on that vision, ask yourself, what would someone, and I like to make a joke out of it and say, what would someone smarter than me do? How did they get there? How did someone super smart get to that point? How did they create that person? How did they become that person? And as soon as you talk that through, you will understand the things that they did. You're basically reverse engineering the steps that it would take to get to there. And you get down to the first step and you go, right, that's where I am. This is what I'll do. I'll take this step. And then you think about the steps. Don't think about the vision anymore. A vision board, you're not thinking about the vision board. It's not a dream. It won't just happen. But re-engineer or reverse engineer the steps, and then start taking the steps that you yourself worked out, that those are the steps that somebody who achieved that would have had to take. And again, create those steps as habits, and off you go. So there are systems for achievement that some people just fall into young, and then they they're billionaires. Yeah.
Not many. I think, one thing you said there that I don't think people really grab as a concept is you have to do the work. You can have the vision, you can have the dream, you can want to be that person that just gets up and meditates in the morning. But if you don't actually do it, it's not going to happen, and I think that's I don't know, is it the fact that people just overthink, make it a lot more than it has to be, and instead, like another thing you said there, which came from James probably, is that it doesn't have to be huge. Sometimes we think we have to make these monumental changes, and I think that just gets us all, it's just too much. Just one little incremental change. If you just do that one thing, as you say, in 6 months' time, it's in your DNA. It has changed. It does change you. So it is, I really value that, peeling it back to much smaller chunks and much smaller steps, because that ultimately, one of my teachers says, live in average, don't look for brilliance. If you are average in that, you just do the little bits that each day, you show up each day, but you do it over 6 months, that's brilliant.
Yeah. Well, that's the compound effect right there, because it does build. Unfortunately, what a lot of people do is they get lost in just thinking about the vision, and they never do the little steps that it takes to get there. They never start on the journey. It's a level of, I think it's your brain tricking you into not doing any work, because
it doesn't
evolutionary,
want you to.
all you want to do is stay warm and fed, right?
It's so true. It's so true. And I think, it is almost like we need to understand that that's what our brain's going to do to actually overcome that and move past that. It is, I don't think people, I love sharing with my clients, your brain's going to try and talk you out of this change, expect it, and that's normal. It's going to be uncomfortable, but that is actually an amazing thing. You can sit in that discomfort and watch all this go on and know that you're going to actually start evolving and changing. And
here's another one. If you join those two ideas, right, and you create a challenge for yourself, and then you create the habits that it will take, the repeatable habits that it will take to achieve that challenge, you can actually become someone who sees their identity as being someone who overcomes challenges. And then it's like you want to set up challenges all the time for yourself, because you're the guy or gal who overcomes challenges. It's part of your identity now. And if your brain is firing, then you're going to be fit for it. You're going to be able for it, and that's what's cool.
Absolutely love that. I think that I was going to say something and it's completely gone. Oh, it doesn't matter. It's gone. But I love that. But what you say, your brain's got to be firing. So if we're not feeding our brains right, then, we're missing one of the puzzle pieces. So we know with health, there are puzzle pieces that we need to put into place to have that magic happen. And obviously diet is a huge one. You've seen it. I've seen it. Tell me then, with the business that you've got, your health coaching business, what is your ideal client and what would you do for them?
Yeah. Well, actually, we've kind of talked through it, because I want to see people who are in middle age, right? They've got 20 years of work experience behind them. And weight has started to creep onto them. They don't have the energy that they used to have. They've got family life, they've got work life, and it's all a bit much. It's almost like there's a low-grade stress, chronic stress, but at a low level, just wrapping itself around their lives, right? I can help take away that stress, mitigate the situations and the thinking that allow that stress to build into a sense of overwhelm, through nutrition, through habits, and just workshopping activities. I can help a person move away from that without necessarily even changing their job, or they're not changing their family life, but just it's building the capability to excel within the situation they find themselves in. And I kind of feel that modern life handicaps us all. Everything is working against us. All the things that we want to work for us actually add up to a situation where they're working against us. And to recapture some of that early joy of life is a beautiful thing. And I think that I have developed a really good system for that, through many, many other thinkers, that I have, whose ideas I have ingested, synopsized and brought into a little system. I think that walking people through that system, which does start at the low carb, real food point. That's actually where it starts. It incorporates improving sleep. It incorporates slowing down to find stillness in your life. It incorporates nature, exercise, thinking changes. It's a comprehensive process. But I believe that people who go through the type of process that I have gone through can find themselves almost unrecognizable to the middle-aged, slow down, energyless person they have become, and start to feel again like that joyous teenager full of energy, except with all the capability, learning, and experience of adulthood. So I feel like midlife is a brilliant time to restart. And I don't mean buy a sports car. I mean, get yourself back into the condition to enjoy life. Don't think that it's all downhill from here, because it certainly isn't.
No,
Is that a convincing pitch, Tracy?
Yes, I'm in. Where do I sign up? Yeah, absolutely, because it's the normalizing of getting old. Did you want to say something about that?
Well, normalizing this phrase, I mean, it's ruining everything. The normalizing. It's normal to feel tired. It's normal to be stressed. It's normal to be overworked, overwhelmed. It's normal to put on weight. It's normal to get fat and sick. It's normal to get diabetes. Normal, 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 normal. This is the ruination of any level of individual health or individual potential, to feel that it is normal to just suck, really. It's normal for life to suck a bit, but at least we've got Netflix. I mean, that is just how Thoreau. People, I mean, it's a very old quote, but people lead lives of quiet desperation. I mean, that's got to be talking to the normal, right? That is normalized chronic stress. It's a terrible, terrible way to live your life. And you don't need to. You really don't need to. You can absolutely step away from that. And it's not that hard.
No, it's not. And you talk about reconnecting with that joy. I think that is innate in us all. You just have to look at kids, I mean, they just embody that joy that we have all had, and we can reconnect back to. It's so possible, and I think, first of all, having someone like you in your corner is going to help you look in the right direction for reconnecting. Because I think if people really listen and start feeling their body again, they're going to know that it's in there. That it's wisdom constantly reminding them that there's more to this. There's more to life than what they're experiencing. There's more to life. Are you just living, or are you living? Like,
Yes.
you've got to almost make that choice in the modern world to live your life, not just get on that treadmill. I've had two new clients start with me this week, and both of them said to me, both women in their 60s, early 60s, Tracy, I feel dead inside. That doesn't that break your heart? Like, that is what, and I think that is so common, that feeling of, there's just nothing. There's no life inside. And, I got shivers because I love the fact that they're going to start with me. I'm going to actually show them that that's not gone. That magic is in there. We just need to look in the right place to connect with it. But, if people are sitting there listening to that and they resonate and they feel not alive, it's not, do something.
Yeah.
Do something about it. Reach out to you, like, yeah, do
It's
it now.
interesting. It's like there are so many items, the food environment that we live in, the work environment, just that nullify us. And the answer to that situation cannot be more of that,
Yes.
which is what we are presented with. I
Yeah.
mean, that
Yep.
cannot be the answer. The answer has to be turning aside and looking at something else. Has to
Yes.
be.
It
And
has to
for
be.
me, that something else is, ancestral wisdom. It is what is innate within us. It is proper nutrition.
Yeah.
Um, and it works. And possibly it works because it is a perfect evolutionary fit with our humanity, because the system is our humanity. If that doesn't sound too woo-woo, that's really what it
No,
is.
not at all. Not at all. Not at all. And it's so right. Gee, I've lost what I was going to say again. I'm so into what you're saying that my thoughts are just, I'm not grabbing them today, but that's how it works anyway.
Yeah,
But,
yeah, no problem.
uh,
One of the
um,
reasons, let me just jump that. One of the reasons I moved to the Blue Mountains, I used to live in the northern beaches of Sydney, and which is, I mean, stunning paradise. But I moved to the Blue Mountains because I really wanted to live in nature, and part of that was because 6 or 8 years ago I became an avid hiker because I really liked the stress break that hiking gave me, going out into the mountains and going on a bushwalk, um, and I would find that I solved problems when I was out. Like out walking, I might be listening to a podcast, might be music, or I might just be thinking or letting my mind wander. And I found massive creativity and problem solving ability while I was out and about. And of course, I've since discovered that there is a mountain of science about walking for problem solving, for your creative brain, just general exercise. It's not a coincidence that many world leaders are runners. Running is their pastime, right? They're just getting out into nature, and it's creating, or it's creating. Oh, it's that finding space. Okay, it's creating space in their brain, in their life, for the creative juices, their natural humanity to shine through and problem solve. And it happens so much, and it's amazing. So amazing that it led to me moving to the mountains because I wanted to be part of my life and my children's lives. And I couldn't recommend that highly enough to anybody. Just walking in nature, that simple thing for mitigating the stress of life, and just allowing problems and your brain to find solutions to things that are holding you back.
Because it can do that. Absolutely. I think that's this tapping into this innate wisdom or whatever, that does sound woo-woo. But I talk about it with my clients because it's not our intellectual brain where the answers are going to come. It is going to come when we can quieten that and do. It's not like we have to do an act. I mean, you've gone into nature and, you found with running, and then you've moved there, which is fantastic. Of course, that's probably not possible for everyone, but we still can tap into that ability to quieten our mind. For some people, I've had it, or for me, like I have it in the shower. When I'm in the shower, there's something about the shower, it just quietens my mind, and then I'll get these insights. People do it meditating, obviously. Running, yes. For me, I come back and I've got to write all these notes because I've had all these ideas. So where does that come from? Well, it doesn't really matter, but it is an infinite resource to show us so many answers and solutions to anything that presents itself in front of our day. And you said at the start you didn't step off into this career change without having safety nets, and to me that's like the ultimate safety net. It's like when we know that exists for us, it's like whatever life throws at us, which we can't control, there's always going to be stuff that's going to throw it right at us that we can't control. we've got this ability to tap into something infinite that can really show us answers and the way forward. And I think to me that's almost like this safety net that's wrapped around me all the time, because I know
So
that exists.
and that's because you access it
Yeah.
regularly. You have
Yes.
discovered
Well,
how
I
to
had to
find it
know.
and access it.
Yes. Someone told me about it. I didn't know about it first. So
Yeah.
first of all, you got to know it exists. And then, yes, you need to obviously, I explain it, even last night to a client, I explain it as tuning in. Most of us are on the wrong frequency. We're tuned out to that. We're tuned more into speeding up here and overthinking and constantly thinking about stuff, as opposed to turning down that channel and tuning into this other channel that you have to do
Yeah.
that. So you have to obviously create the space and do the things that are going to allow that to occur within
So
you, and then
it,
it happens.
it, isn't it terribly interesting that that echoes low carb eating, right? Fat burning. If you are on a carb heavy roller coaster, you can't burn fat just by stopping eating. Your body's pretty much not in tune with fat burning. So you
Mm-hmm.
can't just stop eating for 2 days and you burn fat. However, if you're on a low carb diet where you're regularly accessing your fat stores, your body gets used to it and knows how to access your fat and feed itself. And it's the same thing. It's like
Mm-hmm.
if you are operating in the evolutionary optimal way, you have access to these things. But if you're not, you don't. It's
Yep.
very similar. Yeah, so that's
Yeah.
very interesting what you what you said there. I hadn't seen that correlation before, but it makes perfect sense that there would be a correlation like that, or that it would be a similar accessible system.
I think yeah, I agree. I've seen so many similarities with this understanding of, you know, I guess how we work as human beings, and then how our metabolic system works. And I think for me, the reason why I combine both, and you're doing that too, is because it really it connects us to something that is naturally inbuilt in us all. It allows us to, I guess, to get back to that optimal health and to function on that, with that optimal health. It puts us back into the driver's seat, allows us to, to make the decisions and the choices that we want to make to live the life that we want. And everything else just seems to take us away from that. Anything
Yeah,
that takes me away from that, to me, that's the first red flag. Okay, that's probably not the direction I want to head in. Whereas that was all I ever headed in until, I,
yeah.
was told and saw what the stuff that we were talking about.
How amazing is it that there are clinical trials at the moment based on psychology that where low carb and keto diets can remove low grade or chronic anxiety and depression from people's
Yeah.
lives, because
Yeah.
it's all on the same line. It makes perfect sense that if we remove a bad food cycle or a bad diet from people's nutrition, then their brain chemistry changes, so they're better able to handle things, so the anxiety gets removed, and then they start accessing a better brain system, or their more naturally unhandicapped brain system. And
Yeah.
and that's, I didn't make that up. That's not anecdote. That's what's happening right now. Psychologists running clinical trials, and they are proving case after case after case that they
Yeah.
can have a massive effect on depression and anxiety. And that all, I don't know, it all creates the same end conclusion, that eating in a way that is evolutionary consistent is better for our minds, our brains, our emotions, just everything,
Yeah.
not just weight loss. In
No.
fact, we probably shouldn't even be talking about weight loss in regard to it, because it is such a powerful tool. It's a
Mm,
foundation of being physiologically healthy for everything.
mm. It's common sense when you talk about it like
I
that.
know.
It is just common sense. But as we know, common sense isn't that common, because, of course, then what gets in the way? I mean, and I've had doctors say to me, Tracy, food has no impact on your mind. It has no impact on your, well, for this particular example, it was my thyroid when I went to an endocrinologist about my Hashimoto's. What you eat has no impact on it. So then it comes down to, I know, right? But the personal belief systems that we have are either going to determine what we will instantly dismiss or what we might be curious about. And again, a girlfriend I was catching up with during the week, she's like, Tracy, I've really realized that I need to hold my belief systems really loosely. Isn't that good? Isn't that good?
That's quite good. Yes. Yeah.
Yeah. I mean, I just think now, I mean, there will be plenty of people that would just, refuse to acknowledge, or look there because it just butts up against their own, no, this is what I know. This is what I believe. I'm not even going to entertain the notion that food might have some impact on our brain. Like, just doesn't make any sense, does it?
Yes. Yes. The cells up there aren't created by the food that we eat at all. No, not even slightly related.
No.
Yes. Yeah. Yeah. I'm just
Oh,
gonna. I think it might be a little bit immoral to try and prove that by starving some children, right, and showing
yeah.
that they don't grow anymore, right? They stop growing, their brains stop developing. It's a little immoral, I think, but
I know.
my
I
God.
know. Well, it's been so great to chat to you. Maybe I'd love two questions for you to answer before we
Oh,
finish. First of all, who names some people that you're learning from that really just love what they say, and then just some final words of wisdom for anyone's that is listening to this and may have had their interest sparked about trying to find the spark again.
right. Well, I listen to a lot of Ryan Holiday, who is like the daily stoic.
Stoic. Yeah.
Um, and I really do like Stoic ideas,
Mm.
and it seems apparent now that I've been listening to it quite deeply that every modern thinking system is based on in some way on Stoicism, and it's very interesting that So I like Ryan Holiday, and I would recommend anyone to look up Daily Stoic. Because there's lots of good advice and interpretation of Stoicism up there. And the thing I would say is to seek out challenges, which is a little bit stoic. But
Mm.
I think that if we do things that are hard, that are challenging, that we improve ourselves. And that's just the same as taking an ice bath. If you're looking for the hermetic effects of, a cold plunge or a sauna, they are essentially a challenge to the biological body, which makes the body stronger. Actually, or weightlifting, right? Weightlifting is to break down the muscle so that the
Mm.
muscle will rebuild and be stronger. Okay, that
Mm.
challenge. But I see that outside of diet and exercise, just in life, that is something that we
Mm.
should do as well, because the more we take on challenges and conquer challenges, the more we see ourselves as somebody who can take on and conquer challenges. And then
Yeah.
someday, when life throws something really, really crap at us, we will
Mm.
have the tools to get through it. So
Mm.
that would be my advice.
Mm. Great advice. I love it. I love how you use the word challenge as opposed to a stress, because I think, just little things like that can change the way that we do see it. And, there is a lot of research, as we know, out there around how you see something will determine its impact on you. So if you see things in front of you as a challenge, as opposed to a huge stressor, and that's something that is very, very stressful, it does impact you. It's amazing stuff, isn't it? And just that word to me is one change, but can completely change the way you see what's going on in front of you.
Yeah. Do you know what else? I
Mm.
might just say that do not be afraid to hire a coach, a health coach, a
Mm.
life coach, a career coach, because getting insight from a third party whom spends their time doing this type of thing um, could be the quickest way to redirecting your life out of whatever hole that you are currently trying to get out of. Could just be the
Yeah.
quickest way, and
Yeah.
very enjoyable too. It's always good to get exposed to new ideas.
That's it. That's it. So how can people find you, Niall? Are you so you're up in the Blue Mountains? Obviously, does it matter where people are? Can they,
No, it doesn't actually. I have two clients in the Philippines right now, so that's just an odd thing that
Wow.
happened. That happened via Instagram. So
Wow, that's
uh,
great.
Yeah, so no, it does not matter. I will be conducting live workshops in 2022, but they would more than likely be in the Sydney region. And but until then, the easiest way I'll just say is look, find me on Instagram under Smart Fit Strong, which is what I
I'm
want
gonna,
everyone to
yeah,
be.
yep,
So
Smart Fit
Smart
Strong.
Fit
I will
Strong,
have all your details below so people definitely can connect. And you are going to be on the hub as one of the coaches too when
definitely. Yeah,
I get around to putting all these amazing coaches that we have in our space on there. So, yeah, look, fantastic. It's been such a always great to chat to you.
it is
Thank
lovely.
you for sharing your knowledge and insight and wisdom. And yeah, thanks so much, Niall.
Okay, have a great day.
You,
Everybody, have a great day.
everybody, yes.